Hey, how's everyone doing? I am Pastor Chris Harris with Grains of Sand Ministries here in Louisville, Kentucky. We do meet here at 3711 Bells Lane. We meet from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And for about 30 minutes, I do share the word. And then for about 30 more minutes off air, we do a dialogue question and answer. And so if you feel like this is something for you, I encourage you to join us, please. Again, we do meet here promptly at 9 a.m. on Sundays, every Sunday, at 3711 Bells Lane. I am Pastor Chris Harris with Grains of Sand Ministry. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into what we have been discussing for the last several weeks on a series about what God is like or how we see God. Either or and how you toss it, whether we're talking about how you see God or what God is like, we are discussing the same thing. And so I encourage you, if you have not been following this series, to go back and begin at the first video and work your way forward to where we're at now. And this week, I'm going to expound a bit about what we talked about last week. Last week, if you remember, we weren't physically here because we were out of town on vacation, but we came by video. And we were talking about the nature of God and the nature of what that really is, okay? First of all, what you need to understand about nature of something, the nature of something is what it was born with or the characteristics that define it, okay? Let me say that again. The nature of something deals with the characteristics that define something. So based on that, we can give a couple examples, like what characteristics describe fire? What characteristics describe water? What are its properties? And here's the thing, when we take those things just in general, by themselves, we don't get into the weeds of determining if it's good or bad, because based on how it's used determines the context of whether it actually is going to be used in a manner that is destructive or constructive. Water and fire are both useful to us. We use them every day. It's a necessity in many cases for us to have it. But at the same time, if used in another way, it can be used to bring destruction. Both of them can. It's pretty amazing that something that can give life to you can also be something that can take life from you. So this has to do with the context of this thing and how this is actually used. And what I dealt with was about the nature of God, how God is, and how was that revealed, okay? How did God reveal the Spirit, the very nature of who the Spirit of God is? How was God to accomplish this? Well, let me share it with you. In short, the Spirit of God accomplished this by coming in the form of a physical man, okay? So when God wanted to reproduce the Spirit, okay, the Spirit was reproduced in a physical vessel. Let me say it like this. If we take water, okay, and I take water out of the faucet and I pour it into a bottle, it doesn't become any less water because it's in a bottle. In fact, it becomes water that can be transported and can be moved and can also be more versatile and useful because it's in a bottle. Understand that that bottle only cost pennies, a few cents to make that plastic bottle. But do you realize that when I put water, when I put liquid substance into that bottle, the price and value of that bottle just went up? The same thing can be said if you were to have a pizza delivered to you. If you were to have a pizza delivered to you and the person showed up with that pizza in nothing but their hands, no box, we wouldn't be very fond of taking and accepting that pizza. We would be like, wow, I think you forgot something. You need to take that back and return it because This is something that we can't use. We expected it to show up in a box. And here's the thing, that box that pizza comes in, cheap to make. It's a cheap box. How do I know? Because once what we've used out of it is gone, we take the box and just discard it. We get rid of it. We throw it away. But while that pizza shows up in that box, the value of that pizza, okay, the value of that box goes up because of what's in it. And likewise, the Spirit of God in a physical vessel makes your value the same value as what's put in it. Here's what I mean. Whenever the creator of something creates something, that creator also has a value that's placed on it. How valuable is this? How valuable was the light bulb when the light bulb was first invented? How valuable was flight when flight was first invented? How valuable was mail when it was first invented to carry a mail, to create a service that would carry the letters that you would write to communicate to someone over a long distance? How valuable did it become? It must have become, all of these things must have become seriously valuable because they had become standard things within our society. So, in John 14, it says this, okay? John 14, I believe it starts in 8. And Philip, one of Jesus' disciples, was talking. And this is after they were having their Last Supper, okay? And Philip said, show us the Father, and that will be enough. In other words, Father speaks to their place of origin, the origin of all creation. Where did all of this start from? Where did this come from? Show us that person, and that will be enough for us. Then we'll believe you. And Jesus gave an amazing answer and said to him, Philip, have I been with you so long that you don't know that if you've seen me, you have seen the Father, you have seen the place of origin, you have seen where all of creation and everything has come from. If you want to know what that creator is like, Jesus was saying, look at me. Jesus was not saying, look at a few of my disciples over here. No, Jesus was saying, if you want to know what the creator of all is like, if you want to know what they're really like, whether you have to walk on eggshells, whether are we safe enough to do this? Is this creator gonna knock me silly and just wipe me clean and completely destroy me when I don't get it exactly right? What is this creator like? And Jesus was saying, if you've seen me, you have seen the creator of all. In Colossians 1:19, it says this, for in him, who's the him? The him here is Jesus. In him, all, A-L-L, all the fullness of God was pleased, happy to dwell. And through him, who? The same him that all the fullness of Yahweh Elohim dwelt in. And through him to reconcile all, there's that word again, all things. What is things? Anything. Whether on earth, then here comes the context, or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. What was peace to God? Peace, oh my goodness, you better hear this. What was peace to Yahweh Elohim, the creator of all, the beginning of all life and all source of everything? Yahweh Elohim, what does that mean? The one of supreme authority and power. Okay. So what was peace to Yahweh Elohim? It tells you right here. Peace to God. Peace to the beginning, the origin of all creation. That one right there. The one who created the birds, the trees, all the galaxies that our telescopes are continually finding more of, and everything within this earth. Interesting that the earth sits on a perfect axis, and if we tip too far one side, we'll burn up by being too close to the sun. If we tip too far another side, will freeze to death. So this is done by creative design. But none of that really matters if we don't know what is this creator actually like. What is this God like? And here we read that all the fullness, what does fullness mean? Fullness means to the top, to the brim, cannot accept or take any more. If I take a measuring cup, 2 cups, 4 cup, 32 ounce, I measure something out. In other words, when it reaches that limit, that capacity, it cannot hold anymore. That's it. It is full. We can't possibly fit anything else there. All that we have to fit here, we have fit here. And what this is saying here, in him, again, who's the him? The him here is speaking about Jesus, the Christ, the Messiah, the anointed one, the one that would bear and carry the very name of God. And you have to understand something. What does the name of God mean in Hebrew culture? The name of something indicated its functionality. It indicated what it was. It indicated this is the definition of it. This is what its makeup is. This is what it's designed to do. This is what its purpose is. This is what its primary thing and function here is this. And here is the name. The name was like your social security number. Would pull up and tell everything about you, would tell your history, would tell how you are. Well, the social security number may not tell how you are, but coupled with everything else, with someone building a relationship with you, we have an idea about this is what you are like. I'm speaking about consistency as of habits of things to where they build a reputation about themselves to where you know what they're like. It's like someone that works for you or that you work with that may be very dependable and may be very independable. You know that they're going to be here on time. You know that you can depend on them to take care of that project or that task that you give them. And then you have some that you can't depend on. You know you can't give them that task. You know you can't trust for them to be there at a certain time. So you have to make plans accordingly to how that person's reputation is. What I'm telling you, Jesus revealed within his own life. He gave up his own life, his own everything about him. Nothing of himself was lived to himself. Why? Here's why. The reason why nothing of Jesus' own self was not centered on himself and what he desired for himself was because Jesus gave up his life, laid down his life so that every inch and piece of his life could be full of showing and revealing the very pure nature of Yahweh Elohim. So that at the end of Jesus' life, Jesus could look at one of his disciples and say with confidence, if you've seen me, you have seen the origin of all life. You have seen what the Creator is actually like. You have seen, if you want to know how the Creator is and what the Creator is like. Jesus was saying, if you look at me, and if you can look at any part of my life and anything that I've done, no matter what, you have seen exactly how the Creator of all things actually is. See, it's like this. It's like maybe a famous celebrity that you adore, or a musician, or some sort of artist of some sort. And that person, maybe they're on your bucket list, you wish to meet them. Maybe they're a famous chef, they're a famous architect, they're a famous artist, something, okay? And whomever that is, and you're like, man, they do all of these amazing things. They intrigue me so much. They've done this, they've done that. Wow, they are just amazing. I wonder what they are like. And it's like one of those things where you win a contest where for a day you get to go hang out with them and you get to experience a little bit about what they're like. Maybe talk to their family, talk to their crew, the people that they're around every day, all day. And those people, you get to talk with them and find out, what are they really like? What is their nature? What is it like being around them? What are they like in the morning? What are they like in the evening? What are they like under stress? What are they like? And many people's nagging question and idea is, What is God like? How do we see God? Let me say this. If we do not get to determine, like if you don't actually know me, it would be an unfair assessment for you or anyone else that doesn't know me to try to determine what they think I'm like. That's not really right. I mean, you may be able to go off maybe some things you've read. Okay, that's part of it. But the real kicker is actually experiencing me. Experiencing me requires two things: observation, okay, and participation. They are one and the same, and you cannot have one without the other. See, a person participates in experiencing me by being around me because they've observed, they've watched, they've seen, with the intent of getting involved with. That's what experience is. And when it talks about experiencing God or the knowledge of God in Scripture, that's actually knowledge of God, actually means experiential knowledge. You experience God. See, in Hebrew culture, like right now I'm sitting on a chair, and in Hebrew culture, I would be now an expert on this chair. Why would I be an expert? I didn't build the chair. I didn't make this chair. But in Hebrew culture, I will be considered an expert of this chair. Why? Because when they said knowledge of something, they were speaking of knowledge by experience. What have you learned by experiencing it? See, if I built this chair but never sat on it, in the culture of the Bible that we have, according to the context of it, I would not know anything about the chair. I could build it, but if I never sat in it, I wouldn't know anything about it, which is kind of wild because most creators and inventors that make something take the liberty to include themselves in on the experiment. Why? Because they want to know what their product does. They want to be confident when they put something out there that their product will do X, Y, Z and perform at this, that it will gravitate a name for them that causes people to want to experience what they know about their product. So whoever created this chair, it went through a series of tests. It went through weight limit tests. I'm pretty sure that when this chair was put together, it had a weight limit on the box somewhere that said, this chair will hold this amount of weight. And then maybe it gave it in kilograms and ounces of weight. Why? So that the person building the chair, putting it together, or maybe just buying the chair like it is, this is actually a stool, and I have equipment here that's sitting on a table. Again, this table is rated for something. But yet, if you don't ever use it, you have no real experience with it. Experience, again, involves two things: participation and observation. And they are one and the same. You cannot have one without the other. You need, listen, experience is the child of observation and participation. And Jesus, watch this, says, if you've seen me, you have seen the creator of all things. You have seen what this one is like. See, got to understand this here. Watch this here. Spirit is permanent, but is also limitless with no boundaries. The creativity is ridiculous. But what Jesus knew, Jesus would reveal the very nature. What is this all-powerful being that has created all things actually like? And Colossians 1:19 says this, for in him, who's the him? The him is Jesus. All, what's the all? That means all. Nothing left out of Yahweh Elohim. Nothing left out of the Spirit of Almighty God. Nothing left out of how God is. All of that was placed and pleased to dwell in Jesus. Okay? This means in Hebrews 1:3, it says that Jesus is the expressive image of Yahweh Elohim. And it says here that in him, who's the him? Jesus, the Christ, the anointed one, the one who carried the very name and DNA of Yahweh Elohim. Why did Jesus give his life? We say things like, oh, if I was the only sinner, Jesus would die for me. Let's back up for a minute. Let me just help you. Do you realize John the Baptist, his cousin, said this, behold the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world. Now, you got to understand something. John, his cousin, was a Jew. And being a Jew, they practiced Jewish culture or Judaism, okay? And within their culture, they had what was called sacrifices and offerings that they gave up. And they would take these sacrifices, these offerings, that would be animals, not people, okay? That's a whole nother message. Let me just give it real quick, because whether you know it or not, in the ancient eastern part of the world, it was very common for kids and people to be the object of sacrifice. Yahweh Elohim changed that culture with the Jews to say, no, we're getting better, so we're going to use animals rather than use you. But was that the best of Yahweh Elohim? No. But they were progressively moving in the right direction. You got to understand that Jesus was called Emmanuel, God with us. Jesus was God with us and solving issues and problems through the lens of the original nature of Yahweh Elohim. So what am I saying here? What do we see out of Jesus's life? Because Jesus didn't require any sacrifices, but became one himself. The crazy thing is that it is said, I believe it's Psalms 40, sacrifices and offerings I did not desire. What? Are you serious? Okay, let's look it up. Let's look it up. Sacrifices. There we go. Yes, Psalms 40. Let me go there. Reading in the ESV. It says this, in sacrifice and offering you have not delighted, but you have given me an open ear. Burnt offering and sin offering you have not required. Then I said, behold, I have come. In the scroll of the book it is written of me. Psalms 51:16. For you will not delight in sacrifice, or I would give it. You will not be pleased with the burnt offering. The sacrifices of God, watch this, the sacrifices of Yahweh Elohim are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. What? Wait a minute. Are you serious? A broken and contrite heart? What does that even mean? Well, it's speaking, the writer is using euphemisms and metaphors, concrete metaphors that they would understand in their culture to drive home a point of this is what this God is like. Let me go to another one here. 1 Samuel 15:22. And Samuel said, has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey the voice. Now, to obey the voice of the Lord was also to obey the command of the Lord. When a king would give an edict or a decree, they would send a herald out with a parchment that had the seal of the king on it, the signature of the king on it, that when they would declare it, when they would speak it, when they would bring it across, it would be something that would herald and get the attention of everyone else, and it would show them this is the voice of the king speaking. And it says this, behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to listen than the fat of rams. Hebrews 10:5-7. Consequently, when Christ came into the world, he said, sacrifices and offerings you have not desired. What? But a body you have prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sin offerings you have taken no pleasure. Then I said, behold, I have come to do your will, O God, as it is written of me in the scroll of the book. When he said above, you have neither desired, this is verse 8, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 8. When he said above, you got to get this, you have neither desired nor taken pleasure in sacrifices and offerings and burnt offerings and sin offerings. What? Now here's what we got to understand. All of this was literally all that the Jewish community practiced. This is how they got rid of stuff when somebody sinned. We had a sin offering, we were giving one up. This is where all of this is coming from. Watch this. These are offerings according to the law. Then he had it, behold, I have come to do your will. He does away with the first in order to establish the second. Now you got to understand something. Jesus is called the last Adam. Jesus came and they done away with the first. It's like getting an update on your computer or your phone. When you get an update, it comes through and gets away with the first. It does away with the first and it brings in the other. You don't get an update and keep the same old program that was left on there. No, that one has to be disposed of, overwritten, and done away with. And then you get a new program and a new system that is running on that hardware. And here's the thing. You could have maybe a new phone with the new operating system, or you can have an older phone that has the newer operating system on it. Even though the form and shells are different, the operating system comes out is to operate and function the same. What? Okay. This is what Jesus did. Jesus came along, did away with one, and established another. Jesus' life was a mirrored template of restructuring ideas and things that people had about God. Now you got to put this out here. After reading all of that, we have to conclude that if God never desired burnt offerings and sacrifices, then who did? Where did the idea actually come from? Got news for you. It didn't originate from God's own idea and mindset. I know what you say. We may go back to Genesis and some may say that, well, wait a minute, there was a sacrifice there. God had to make them animal skins to cover them because they had covered themselves with fig leaves. What they covered themselves with was what they had begun to identify with. They began to identify with something that was not of God because they were told that if you eat of this tree, you're going to become like God. Problem is, they were already like God. And yet they begin to do something to become something. And when you try to do something to become something you already are, the end result is going to be destructive. So what did happen then? Did God not cover them with animal skins? Oh yeah, it did. But again, we're missing metaphors and the way things are used. Do you know that there is an animal that is used still today that we use what's actually considered their skin? That's how they would have saw it. Okay, not something that we've separated in our culture. Like when they said hand, okay, hand also included up to here, to the forearm, okay? Just putting that out there. Hand did not just mean, I know in the medical field today and the things today we can differentiate and specify, I mean this, not the forearm, but they didn't have doctors and things and they didn't have all of those things like we have specified today in our Western culture. So it was more of a different view of that, which would have been again from here to about right here. Because when they actually shook, they actually would lock forearms, not this. They would actually lock forearms. Okay. So when they're talking about skin, this is talking about actually what I believe it actually was, because one of their main sacrifices that they gave were rams or lambs, okay? Lambs or sheep have, unlike goats, this is the difference, okay? They have wool on them, and they take the wool and they shave the wool off of the sheep, and they make clothing out of that. Now, interesting enough, wool is, pure wool, is fire retardant and also water retardant as well. It repels water and repels fire. Look it up, it's pretty interesting. That is the animal that we can take their skin per se and not kill them. And they're still alive. Interesting, huh? Why do we always assume when we read Genesis that when the Lord made the skins of the animals, that an animal had to be killed? We assume that into the text, but it never says that. And also, as far as skins go, okay, God doing it, Yahweh Elohim doing this, would have made more sense that way. Now, when we read later that sacrifices and offerings I did not desire. Wait a minute. So if God didn't desire sacrifices and offerings, we're always thinking it's this way rather than that way. When the Prince of Peace, the King of all peace, always had another way, another plan that didn't involve destroying his own creation. Got to understand this right here. Like we think because it was an animal, the Lord just said, we'll just go ahead and off that. Just get that animal over there. We'll just, yeah, it'll be all right. We'll just go ahead and take that one's life and we'll get some skins for you. We got you. Really? The creator of all, let me say it this way, the one that birthed like a mother. Now let me put it in context for you. Birth like a mother. A mother has a child, a mother gives their life for their child because they've carried that child for 9 months. Yeah. So let's look back at this. In Colossians, let's go back to Colossians here. (1:19). Here we go. What was, or 1:20? Making peace by the blood of his cross. What was peace to Yahweh Elohim? Peace was the reconciliation, the bringing back together of all things through him. God was in Christ, reconciling the world to himself. Let's look up the word reconcile. I'm going to look it up in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Got it right here. We're going to look up reconcile. Let's look up some synonymous words. To bring to a state free of conflicts, inconsistencies, or differences. What? It means to take out the differences and make this the same. Genesis 1:26 and 28. When the Lord made, when Yahweh Elohim made mankind after the image of Yahweh Elohim. Mankind was originally made with the same nature and likeness of Yahweh Elohim. Exactly like, same. Reconciled, same, no difference. To reconcile means to get rid of and free of conflicts and differences and inconsistencies. To restore to friendship or harmony. To settle, to resolve, to make consistent or congruent. To make, say the same thing. This is what it means to reconcile. So peace to Yahweh Elohim, watch this, is not beating the mess out of his own son and saying, I'm abandoning my son. I'm committing my son to take on your sin so I can turn my back on him. and face you, and then I'll have peace. Wow. I want to submit to you that the picture and image of God that we have had painted for us has been a very violent one. We're bringing atonement or reconciling things. See, we have been taught, a lot of us, at least I was, that the way that God would reconcile and make peace was that he would have to kill his own son, allow his own son to be murdered, and pleased by that. It's not what this is talking about. Okay, let me watch this now. If we go to Isaiah, I'm about to show you something. Isaiah 53. All right. Okay. So let me put this in. So we got to do a little work here. In Isaiah 53, verse 10. Okay, I'm going to read this from, read it from the NIV. Let's go there. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. Okay. Right where they said that, there's another place in Psalms 8 actually that does this. It says that he has made him a little lower than the angels. That's actually not the correct English rendering. The English rendering, it renders as angels, but that's a very poor translation. The proper translation, Psalms 8, okay, here, where it says he has made him a little lower than angels. It actually is he's made him a little lower than Elohim, not angels. Okay, now I said that to tell you that there is a lot of inconsistencies when we get things translated over from Hebrew understanding into our English language. A lot of times we butcher it because, believe it or not, linguists will tell you about our English language. It's actually considered what's called a bastard language. And the Hebrew language is very sophisticated and more concrete. Okay, believe it or not. And it doesn't mean here that the Lord was happy. I'm ready to just smite you and crush you. That's not what was happening there. Okay. It's actually more of that the Lord was pleased, okay, to see him healed, to see healing through him. That's literally in a nutshell what's going on. It goes down to say, it says the Lord makes his life an offering, okay? But what has actually happened is when we pull together that a body you have prepared for me. I know what you say. What about when Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Read the rest of Psalms 22. In Jewish culture, they would recite pieces of something and they would generalize it and paraphrase it. But everyone in their culture understood and knew that when they did that, they were talking about the whole thing, not just a piece of it. So to make peace for Yahweh Elohim was not the equivalent of let me murder my own son and let me do this and let me do that. No. Peace was bringing together and making the same like what was originally made to be like. And we were originally made to live and be just like Yahweh Elohim. I don't believe that the Lord just decided one day, you know what? Hey guys, I'm kind of over this sacrifice thing. It's not my thing. I'm kind of moving on. Just not going to need y'all to do that anymore. No, God was always this way. But when you look at God through a distorted filter, our own filter, I'm going to say that, our own filter, anything looking at God, the creator of all things, outside of looking at God through the lens of Jesus is a very distorted filter. And it is only by looking at Yahweh Elohim, the creator of all things, through the lens of Jesus? Do we actually see a clear picture? You will never see a clearer picture. Jesus is perfect theology about this. Jesus never burned anybody up with fire, never took anybody out with an earthquake, never flooded anybody, took anybody out with a flood, and yet was able to completely overcome death and everything that would be evil in this world. Okay, there's a lot there. I need to stop. I've gone way over my time. But I hope you've gotten something from this. I encourage you today. Again, my name is Pastor Chris Harris here at Grains of Sand Ministries. We meet between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Sundays at 3711 Bells Lane. And this is where we teach you how to live an effective life by acknowledging every good thing that is within you. And we believe that your origin and place that you came from was from the Spirit of God. And right now I'm in a series, and I don't know how long it'll last, but I'm gonna keep going until I feel like I have exhausted as much as I possibly can concerning how God actually is and always has been. And each week that I come before you, I'm gonna share another piece of this is how God is actually, and this is how God always has been. That is the good news. Jesus was revealing to the world, this is how Yahweh Elohim always has been. Jesus laying down his life was saying, was putting the period definition on. This is how Yahweh Elohim always has been. Will never bleed blood from his own creation, but to preserve the life and give life, to bring his creation out of wandering darkness. This is what's talked about in John 1, believe it or not. It's not just talking about people. It's talking about the cosmos, the world. Do you understand that? It's not talking about simply people living in the world. It's talking about the galaxies. Do you ever wonder why we have other planets that are uninhabited? Why there's little life there? Is it possible that maybe something was cut short early? You ever think about that? These are just some things to put out there. Okay, let me quit. Peace, the peace that we're learning this week, first of all, is all the fullness of Yahweh Elohim. That means to the top. This means there's nothing that's going to come after somebody dies that tells you this is what God is actually like now. See, Jesus only revealed a little bit, just enough to get us over to the other side. But then after that, now we got to find out how God actually is. See, there's some stuff that Jesus left out. No, that's not true. Fullness, the fullness of Yahweh Elohim is revealed in who? Jesus. That means everything you would ever want to know about. Listen, Jesus did not reveal everything that Yahweh Elohim could accomplish or do. That's why Jesus said, the same works I do, you will do, and greater than these shall you do. John 14:12. Yeah. Greater works than these shall you do. Jesus didn't reveal everything that Yahweh Elohim was capable of. Jesus simply revealed the very nature of Yahweh Elohim. Just because you can see what water can do over here doesn't mean you've explored the full capability of what water is capable of. But if you know the nature of water, you will know actually what it's always capable of. You will know what it can do, but you have to know the nature of it. If you know the nature of something, you can know what it actually is capable of and what it will do and what it can do. And in Jesus is revealed the full nature of how God always has been, the creator of all things, always has been. I cannot stress that enough. Jesus did not reveal a new God. Jesus revealed how God always has been. You have to get that. And making peace, the way this God makes peace, is by bringing things together, bringing it to its original origin. All right, I didn't really get into what I really wanted to get into, but we'll get into that next week, where we will share another piece about what God is actually like. Have a great day. Know that you're loved. Here at Grains of Sand Ministry, 3711 Bells Lane. Meet on Sundays between 9 and 10, and we do question and dialogue afterwards. Have a great day.